This is Frontier Echoes, where forgotten voices of the Wild West rise again through dust, danger, and stories that still shake the heart. If you're ready for another tale carved from the raw edge of America's frontier, then settle in. Today's story begins with a debt, a mistake, a desperate man, and a choice that could have destroyed 2 lives, or saved them. The town of Bitter Creek was a place for people running from something. Some from the law, some from their past, and many from themselves. Every stranger riding through those empty streets carried a history darker than the clouds that once promised rain but never delivered. And one of those men was Caleb Harlow. Caleb wasn't a bad man. But the world had pushed him hard, and sometimes he pushed back in ways he wasn't proud of. He'd once been a rancher with promise, one of those rare young men who could rope a wild horse, break it, and still talk to it like it was his brother. But drought took the land. Illness took his family. And time took his optimism. Debt came next. To survive, he borrowed money from Clyde Maddox, the kind of man who smiled only when someone else was suffering. Clyde wasn't known for mercy. He was known for his saloon, his guns, and the small army of troublemakers who followed him around like hungry dogs. Caleb never planned to fall behind on payments. But when the storms tore down his last barn and the cattle scattered, he had nothing left to give. And that brings us to the day everything changed. It was early evening when Clyde Maddox rode into Caleb's small, ruined property. Dust rose in thick clouds behind the horses. The sun was sinking in a blaze of orange flames across the dry fields. Caleb stepped out of what remained of his home, wiping sweat from his forehead, jaw tight, waiting for whatever came next. Clyde climbed down from his horse slow and smug, brushing off his expensive coat. Behind him stood 2 large men, Cain and Virgil, brothers who carried cruelty in their veins like blood. Clyde looked around the land and chuckled. "Well, Caleb," he said. "Looks like you've got nothing left worth taking." Caleb didn't argue. It was the truth. He took a step forward. "I'll get your money. I just need more time." Clyde raised a hand. "Time is something you had plenty of. And wasted." Caleb clenched his fists. "Please." But Clyde interrupted, turning to the wagon one of his men had pulled behind them. "I brought another option." He motioned with 2 fingers. Someone inside the wagon shifted. A silhouette moved. Then a young woman stepped down carefully, her wrists tied, her hair long and unkempt, her eyes watching everything with quiet fear. She wasn't from Bitter Creek. She wasn't from anywhere Caleb recognized. She looked like someone who had never belonged in this world of whiskey, guns, and dust. Clyde grabbed her arm roughly and pulled her forward. "This," Clyde said, "is Lila." Caleb looked confused. "Who is she?" "A debt," Clyde replied casually. "Her father owed me more than you do. He couldn't pay. So he offered her." Caleb's jaw tightened in disgust. "That's not payment. That's slavery." Clyde smirked. "Call it what you want. The West has its own rules. And men like you and me, we either follow them, or we get eaten alive." He shoved the girl closer to Caleb. "So here's my offer," Clyde continued. "Take her as payment for your debt. She cooks. She cleans. She works. And her father said she's obedient. Should be plenty useful for a man living alone." Caleb stepped back. "I'm not taking a woman like she's cattle. I don't want any part of this." Clyde shrugged. "Then your other option is simple. I take your land, your horse, and whatever else you've got left. And if that's not enough," his eyes narrowed, "then we settle it with blood." The 2 large men behind Clyde grinned, eager for violence. Caleb felt his heart twisting. He had nothing left to offer. No money. No goods. Barely even land. And standing there, watching the girl tremble, he felt anger boiling inside him, not at her, but at the man who dragged her into this. He shook his head. I won't take her. Clyde sighed dramatically. Caleb, you're not hearing me. You will take her. Or you will lose everything. And she, he looked at the girl with a cruel smirk, will be sold to men far worse than you. Something in Caleb froze. A cold knot tightened in his chest. He looked at the girl, really looked at her, for the first time. Her eyes weren't empty like he expected. They were scared, yes, but there was something else behind them. Strength. A quiet, fierce strength. And pain deeper than anything he had ever known. Something inside him shifted. This wasn't just a transaction. This wasn't about debt anymore. This was about her life. Clyde nudged him. Well? Do we have a deal? Caleb's voice came out low and steady. Cut the ropes. She's not working for me as a prisoner. If she stays here, she stays free. Clyde laughed sharply. Oh, look at the hero. Fine. Whatever makes you sleep at night. He gestured for Cain to cut the ropes. The knife sliced through them, and Lila rubbed her wrists, stepping back instinctively. Clyde mounted his horse. Debt paid. But remember, Caleb, heroes tend to die young in a world like this. With that, the horses thundered off, leaving Caleb standing with a young woman who had no home, no family, and no freedom left except the little he had just given her. Caleb spoke first. You're safe here. I don't expect anything from you. You don't owe me a thing. Lila didn't respond immediately. When she did, her voice was soft, almost fragile. Thank you. Those two words hit him harder than any punch he'd ever taken. Days passed. Lila moved quietly through the ranch, doing small tasks even though Caleb told her she didn't have to. She cooked simple meals. She fetched water. She repaired a broken fence by herself one afternoon, surprising Caleb with her determination. But she rarely spoke. It wasn't until the night the coyotes got too close that Caleb saw a different side of her. He heard them howling near the barn. When he rushed outside with his rifle, Lila was already there, standing between the animals and the last calf Caleb had left. Her stance was firm. Her eyes were sharp. She wasn't afraid. Caleb fired a warning shot, and the coyotes scattered. When he turned to her, breath heavy, he asked, "Why did you do that?" Lila looked at him calmly. "Because you saved me. So I save what is yours." Caleb shook his head. "You don't owe me anything." Lila looked away, whispering, "I owe the world nothing. But I repay kindness." After that night, something changed between them. She began to talk more. Smile more. She told him about her father, how he was a gambler who traded away everything, even her future. She told him how she dreamed of freedom, even if she never expected to find it. Caleb, in turn, told her about the land he once loved, the family he lost, and the hope he tried to bury. They worked side by side repairing the ranch. Lila planted a garden behind the house. Caleb fixed the roof. Slowly, painfully, beautifully, life returned to a place that had been dying. But peace never lasts long in the West. One afternoon, while Caleb was out gathering supplies, Clyde Maddox returned to the ranch, this time drunk, furious, and determined to reclaim what he believed he had lost. Lila saw them first. Clyde, Cain, and Virgil riding fast toward the house. Dust rising like a storm. She froze, but only for a heartbeat. Then she ran. By the time the men reached the yard, she was standing there alone, holding a long wooden staff she'd carved herself. Her hands trembled, but her eyes did not. Clyde smirked. "We made a mistake giving you away, girl. Your father says he wants you back." Lila shook her head. "He sold me. I am no longer his. Cain stepped closer. Then you belong to whoever bought you. But before they could reach her, a gunshot cracked through the air. Caleb stood on the ridge above the ranch, rifle aimed, fury burning in his eyes. That's close enough, he growled, walking down the slope. Clyde turned, sneering. We came to collect what's ours. She's not yours, Caleb said. Not now. Not ever. Virgil spit on the dirt. You gonna fight all three of us? Caleb didn't even blink. If I have to. The standoff stretched like a wire pulled tight. The wind held its breath. Lila watched rigidly, knowing one wrong move could end everything. Clyde finally smiled. Fine. Have it your way. He leaned forward. But remember this, Caleb. Women given as debt don't stay lucky for long. Then the men rode off, leaving behind only dust and threat. Caleb lowered his rifle, chest heaving. Lila approached him slowly. You came back, she whispered. He looked at her, eyes softening. Of course I came back. She hesitated, then spoke words she had held inside for weeks. I don't want another master. I don't want to be owned. But here, with you. I feel like I belong. Caleb swallowed hard. Lila, you're not here because of a debt anymore. You're here because you chose to stay. Her eyes warmed, finally, truly, freely. That night, they sat on the porch watching the stars. No ropes, no debts, no fear. Just two broken souls finding something like peace. Something like hope. Maybe even something like love. And that's how Bitter Creek learned the truth. Sometimes the West was a place of cruelty, but sometimes, just sometimes, it gave people a chance to start again. Caleb Harlow didn't take a woman as payment for a debt. He took a chance on someone the world tried to throw away. And she, in return, saved his life just by being in it. This is Frontier Echoes. If you want more stories carved from the dust, the danger, and the forgotten legends of the Wild West, stay right here. There are more echoes waiting to be heard.